So we all remember how terrifying Nemesis was in the classic Resident Evil 3, as we watch him terrorize Jill, Valentine, in Raccoon City, being that constant obstacle that she had to overcome. So with the many rumors of a potential Resident Evil 3 remake in the horizon, let's go ahead and see the evolution of Nemesis throughout the years, and how Capcom made this tyrant one of the most iconic monsters in the gaming industry. Anyways, what is up you guys, this is DeVuH, and in this video we'll be covering Nemesis from his debut in the classic RE3, and all throughout his different media outlets and games, and see how much of an impact he had in the Resident Evil franchise's story, and how he could be like in a potential Resident Evil 3 remake. Also, before we get started with the video, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel for more Resident Evil content like this in the future, and possibly sharing this video with a friend and in any other social media outlets out there. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so starting off, let's quickly discuss Nemesis' background and his progression from RE3 and the other games and media outlets out there. So Nemesis was first introduced to us in Resident Evil 3 in the year 1999, which he was this new and terrifying obstacle that Jill had to face, because his initial appearance was nothing more than breathtaking, immediately showing how formidable he was with the way he took out Brad Vickers at the RPD station, letting us know that he's on a completely different level from what we saw from Mr. X in the classic RE2. Where he's a tyrant that's able to run faster than Jill, being able to throw us around, and even doing his instant kill move, which made me wonder how in the world did the Umbrella Corporation create such a monster. But luckily for us, we later find out that Nemesis was actually created with the foundation of the base T-103 models that we saw with Mr. X, which these tyrants were originally individuals who were infected with the T-virus, but instead of becoming a carnivorous zombie, they were able to adapt to the viral strain, gaining all the benefits from it and showcasing his power. But one of the biggest drawbacks to creating one of these tyrants was the lack of genetically capable humans who can assimilate with the T-virus, with the odds of a viable candidate being only 1 in 10 million. But the Umbrella Corporation was able to work around this by having a person that works in their ranks who was genetically viable, allowing them to clone and mass produce these monsters. So with the foundation of the T-103 model tyrants out of the way, Nemesis was created on the basis of adding a parasite to one of these tyrants, which was known as the Any-Alpha parasite, created by the European branch of the Umbrella Corporation, a parasite that allows its host to have increased intelligence and allowing Umbrella to control the monster with ease. Which explains why he's able to track the remaining STARS members, being able to talk, and being able to use weaponry, which I'll be discussing more a little bit later in the video. Also, on a quick side note, if we take some info from the Resident Evil 3 Chinese manhwa, we actually get an interesting backstory to Nemesis and his life prior to RE3. And I know the Chinese manhwa's iteration isn't canon, but we'll be discussing more of these types of different medias about Nemesis, so we can get a well-rounded view of this tyrant overall. Anyways, his background in the manhwa actually depicted him as a boxer, who eventually got entangled with the Umbrella Corporation, causing himself to be experimented on and losing his wife and child in the process. So with this in mind, this backstory could be something that could be implemented in RE3 Remake, because it'd be nice for us to see Nemesis as more than just a formidable BOW, but also as a tragic character who lost everything, and now is under the grasp of Umbrella. So with the Chinese manhwa and backstory out of the way, let's continue to discuss Nemesis' many traits, and how this plays along with the future game iterations and media. So Nemesis is suited up in one of the tyrant's trenchcoat limiters, which was designed by Umbrella to allow these tyrants to absorb a certain amount of damage from firearms. But its most important aspect was to prevent these tyrants from mutating into their second form, because if we use Mr. X as an example, if released from the trenchcoat limiter, he would turn into a super tyrant like we saw from the classic Resident Evil 2 and RE2 Remake. But in Nemesis' case, instead of gaining the extra claw like Mr. X, and having that extra heart absent as well, we instead have him much more versatile with the use of his tentacles, which is a byproduct from the Any-Alpha parasite, where we see Nemesis be able to use the tentacles in a multitude of ways, with the classic Resident Evil 3's version allows Nemesis to drag the characters closer to him, or whip him around the air. Or we even get a good depiction in Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, because Nemesis in this version is able to use the tentacles to burrow down inside the ground and pop out to attack our characters from a distance. But even with all the versatility and utility that we see with Nemesis be able to do in his second form, I still think the aspect that makes him stand out amongst his tyrant brethren is his ability to use weaponry, because now he's not limited by using his many melee attacks, but is now able to take advantage of using powerful ranged weapons, locking onto specific targets, and making him very dangerous in all aspects of combat, with some great examples depicted here. And if we add in the movie iteration of Nemesis, we get to see the depiction of him using a minigun to take out the STARS team. And again, on a quick note, this is not canon, but I'd like to mention these things to see more of what Nemesis is capable of, even in a different media outlet. Also in this movie, we get a small segment of a hand-to-hand combat when he's fighting against Alice, showing us that he's capable of doing at least some type of damage in close quarters. Also, the background of him in this movie is completely different from both the original Resident Evil 3 and the RE3 Chinese manhwa, where we have one of the characters by the name of Matt get infected in the first RE movie, and then would be experimented on to become the tyrant that we see now. So all in all, these different backgrounds, like I mentioned earlier, are some ideas that they can improvise to give Nemesis more of a backstory prior to fighting him in RE3. Anyways, as we move on throughout the years, we see Nemesis make other cameos outside of the classic Resident Evil 3, from Operation Raccoon City to Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. But there was another one great example, which was with the Marvel vs. Capcom series, where we see him as one of the playable characters and have a small storyline as well, which I thought was pretty cool to see our beloved tyrant be on a non-Resident Evil game, truly showing how much of a cultural icon he's become.
Stars. Nemesis.
Anyways, as we move on to the future, and the vast amounts of rumors about a potential Resident Evil 3 remake in the works, it just makes us Resident Evil fans wonder what kind of Nemesis we'll get to see in RE3 Remake. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, the many different ideas and backstory to who he was could be something that Capcom could implement, making Nemesis more human in the sense that we knew him before his transformation into a tyrant. Also, it would be a good addition to possibly change his final form from the original Resident Evil 3 and have him more like a super tyrant, similar to Mr. X in a way that he's able to move at blazing speeds and much more acrobatic in movement. And also, if they do decide to add claws, I hope this aspect could be something that could work in tandem with his tentacles as well, making him the most dangerous and versatile that we've ever seen him be. Also, maybe mixing up the aspect that we see from the classic RE3, Operation Raccoon City, and Resident Evil Apocalypse, where we see him show off his superhuman strength, where we see him break through walls, moving vehicles, and possibly adding some scenes from Nemesis' point of view, and have him wield a minigun like we saw from the other medias. So mixing this all together, and seeing the evolution of Nemesis throughout the years, we can conclude that we may see this tyrant be that perfect apex villain for us to see in Resident Evil 3 Remake. Anyways, what are your guys' thoughts about Nemesis, and which version of him was your absolute favorite? Please let me know and why on the comment section down below. Also, if you enjoyed this type of content and want more, then please feel free to hit that notification bell icon so you guys can be alerted when I upload my newest Resident Evil video. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey DeVuH, signing out.